Alright? Simping isn't bad. Simping is king shit, okay? You're a king if you're not afraid to simp.
One great example of male privilege is safety on dating apps. Men's primary concern when it comes to dating is not being catfished or ghosted or stood up or rejected, whereas women's primary concern is not being stalked, assaulted, or worse. So men, if a woman asks you to FaceTime before she meets you, or doesn't want to give you her number but would rather chat through the app, or doesn't want to run right out and meet you immediately because she wants to get to know you a little better, or doesn't want you to pick her up at her house for the date, instead of getting defensive about this is time for you to understand your male privilege and put yourself in her shoes and realize what she's considering and what she's thinking about before she risks meeting up with you. This is a great way for you to display empathy and compassion and be a better human being. And this is bacon. This is an extremely telling and toxic argument that some men make. Here's the thing, women do understand you can't revoke consent the next day because they don't do that. No woman wakes up after having consensual intimacy with somebody and says, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and revoke that consent. What does happen is sometimes they wake up and realize what just happened to them. They realize they did not consent to it. They come to terms with it, and then they address it. That's not the same thing. And trying to say that women revoke consent the next day only tells on you. And this is bacon.
I say that again. Every guy wants a low number. It's just that.
You can repeat it over and over again until you're blue in the face. It doesn't mean that you're right. The only men who want a woman with minimal experience in bed are insecure shitweasels with unwashed asses who want a woman to think that 30 seconds and then a little bit of sweat dripping on your forehead and then a, hey, did you get there too? Counts as a pleasurable sexual experience for both partners. The rest of us want women with actual experience because they know what makes them feel good. They know what works with them, and they can communicate and let us know what we can do to help them feel better. And this is bacon. Here are 4 myths that pickup artists, men's rights activists, and other misogynists desperately want you to believe are true. Number 1, hypergamy. Number 2, pair bonding. Number 3, the friend zone. And number 4, men as protectors. And this is bacon.
Men completely have a problem with your body counts.
There are only 4 reasons for any man to ever care about the number of partners that a woman has had. Number 1, he is so bad in bed that he's terrified she's going to figure it out. Number 2, he is so emotionally immature that he cannot handle the idea of his partner having previous partners, and instead of growing as an adult, would rather be insecure, controlling, and toxic. Number 3, he believes in Sky Daddy or some other purity culture nonsense, even though we know purity is patriarchal, misogynistic bullshit. Or number 4, all of the above. And this is bacon.
I am totally fed up with this whole feminazi movement that is destroying the young men.
Yeah, God forbid that women in the feminist movement expect men to learn how to wash their own ass, how to have some growth, emotional intelligence, stop being toxically masculine, understand male privilege, treat women like human beings, understand the rules of consent, respect marginalized and oppressed groups, appreciate the space that women have carved out for themselves, and exhibit even one iota of empathy and compassion. Those poor little young men, how will they ever survive? And this is bacon. Wow. Imagine telling on yourself this hard. All right, chuckle nuts, let's look at some actual facts. First of all, women underreport actual harassment and assault all the time. Secondly, out of the reports that actually do happen, a very, very minuscule percentage of them can be considered false. And out of those tiny numbers that are false, most of them fall apart under the slightest scrutiny or investigation whatsoever, leaving a very, 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 very small percentage of any of them that ever see the light of day in any way whatsoever. So you saying that every man who's worked out hard at the gym can relate to being a victim of false accusations is complete and absolute utter bullshit. So do false accusations happen? Of course, but the chances of them affecting your life negatively are drastically lower than the likelihood that you actually did something worth being accused for. And this is Bacon. So your friend thinks it's a huge societal problem that some women go out on dates just to get a free meal, and he's raging mad about it. Okay, well, first of all, I think you should tell your friend he should smile more. He'll just be happier. He'd have a much better life if he would just smile more, and people will like him more, and maybe, he won't get so mad if he just improved his attitude on the inside. So that's step number one. Step number two is there a percentage of women who will just say yes to a man asking them out to get a free meal or drink or whatever? Yes, of course. That is a small percentage of women out there. That's not the majority. And it happens. Is it toxic? I don't think so. Because half the time, the men who are asking these women out are generally pieces of shit. These are usually men who are very clearly objectifying these women, insisting. They've probably said no before, and they're finally like, yes, you know what, I'll go out. Just to shut the person up, and they get a free meal out of it. So I don't think that women reacting to a borderline abusive situation by saying, well, I might as well see what I can get out of this if I'm going to have to put up with this abuse, is toxic. It's toxic on the man's part. I would say that if more men asked a woman out when there was obvious mutual interest, or took no for an answer and walked away, this wouldn't happen as much. But also, finally, men built a society that says that men court women, that it's weird for women to ask men out, and that men have to do the asking out, they have to take the initiative, they have to plan the dates, they have to do this, and so it's all on men to do this, and then get mad that some women are like, okay, well, we're gonna get a free meal out of it. It's society's issue. It's don't be mad at the women, be mad at society. Society, patriarchal society built by men, and also, these are the same men who get mad that if a woman tries to pay in a date, they'll say, oh no, absolutely. They'll be like offended. Their ego will be hurt if a man, doesn't get to pay on the date. And then finally, why the fuck are you going out to dinner on a first date? That is the worst first date possible. If your actual goal is to try to meet somebody and get to know if you like them, you want something quick for that first date. You want that first meeting to be something where you can both escape if you don't like each other. A drink at a bar, a coffee, something that's just a quick little meeting, get to know each other, and then if it goes well, hey, oh, this is really going well, and you're actually connecting, then move on to maybe, a second round somewhere, or to lunch, or, from coffee to lunch or something like that. Stop doing dinner as some, fancy first date, and then you won't have a problem. If someone takes advantage of you, quote unquote, for a free drink, you'll survive. And this is Bacon. Let's be very fucking clear. There is no war against masculinity. There is a war against toxic masculinity. There is a huge difference. Do you know what toxic masculinity is, little child? It is the idea that men are only men if you do X, Y, and Z, and if you don't, you're not a real man. It's the idea that men can't be gay. Men can't go to therapy. Men can't express emotions other than anger. That is toxic masculinity. Now, could I beat you arm wrestling with my left hand while wearing a dress with a butt plug inside with my fingernails painted? Abso-fucking-lutely, but I'm not going to, because I don't need to prove myself to anybody. You see, healthy masculinity and men who are healthily masculine don't care what other people think about them. There is no war on masculinity. It's time to grow up. And this is Bacon. The only kernel of truth in your ignorant, crusty-ass comment is the fact that youth is precious. And it is. Women, your youth is precious. You should take your youth and explore the world, pursue a higher education, open a business or two. You should have a healthy sex life. You should explore your sexuality. You should do all the things you want to do. But what you should never do is worry about what someone like this thinks about your value. And this is Bacon. Anytime someone tries to bring up female privilege, just ask them what they mean by that. And what they'll mean by that is that, oh, well, women get free drinks, or, women can just, shake their butt on the internet and they get hundreds of thousands of likes, or, women who are pretty get treated better than other people. So what they're actually talking about is objectification. They think objectification is a privilege. It's not, very obviously. We all know this, but that's how they perceive it. So you have to explain to them, no, that's objectification. That's them dehumanizing women. That's not a privilege to be dehumanized in any fucking sense of the word. So hopefully that helps. And this is Bacon.